All right, guys, welcome back to what was previously the Creative Hub. Starting this up again before it was Caitlin and I. We're both super busy people, and I kind of wanted to shift a little bit, so I'm actually going to start a new podcast, which is this one right here. First guest is Mr. Seth Jacobsen. Thank you for joining me, man. And we are actually going to be shifting the niche a little bit, too. Before, we were talking about pretty much anything and everything marketing. Now we're honing in. Marketing is a very broad term. It's like, okay, your niche is marketing. That's not really a niche. There's so much that goes into it. There's so many different avenues and respects. So now we're going to be talking about marketing within the online course coaching consulting space. Okay, so any of you guys out there that have online courses, you guys are coaches, you're consultants, watch this. We're going to be bringing on some of the best here locally, especially within Boise, but we're going to go nationwide. And we're going to be learning the marketing secrets and tactics to people throughout their journey. So we can all make as much money as we possibly can and provide the best possible service with our courses. So, Seth, welcome, man. How are you doing today? How's the morning going?
I'm perfect. Couldn't be happier.
Beautiful. I guess it's not really morning. It's 1 in the afternoon at this point. But, so, Seth, let's start out by, I'm going to start a timer while we do this too. Start out by giving me a quick background on who are you? What have you done before in the past? What are you doing now? Start from a broad perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I feel like it all starts as children, right? And so my upbringing, I grew up in Idaho, and my path to becoming a coach really started watching my parents go through their struggles. They're entrepreneurial, and I feel like I got my best training from about the age of 4 to about 14, watching them start businesses, living in a small ski town.
What'd your parents do?
Well, they did a bunch of different things. They had an outerwear company. They did general contracting. Later on, they did design. Right now, they have a big gallery and furniture store. So they've started, sold, stopped several businesses. And I had the privilege of literally watching a daily business meeting every day that I woke up.
Bro, best spot to be in.
Yes.
Right? My father's the same way, entrepreneur. You'll meet him here shortly. Awesome guy. I've learned everything from him to be able to be my best friend and my mentor growing up. Perfect spot to be in. Continue.
Yeah. So growing up in a small town, you literally had to start and stop your business every single year. I had the privilege of being able to grow up on skis. So I spent my 20s on skis. And I made my living either skiing or growing ski schools or training instructors or working with athletes. And so I really spent like a decade trying to figure out people, trying to figure out leadership. In my 30s, I shifted industries, went to real estate, construction, sales in general, and pretty much think I have the coolest job now because I've had the privilege of working with over, 4,000 people through interviews and trainings and whatever it might be. So people are my thing, and I'm pretty much as lucky as it gets.
Yeah, dude, I'm sure you've had to learn so much about people over the years and working directly with them in so many different respects and avenues. So sum up for me right now, what is the offer that you're doing?
Sure. So my offer is to reprogram your brain so that it matches your goals. I started a long time ago in helping people become better athletes and then create better businesses and then create better teams. But it all came back to, is my mind helping me or is it not? And so we all wake up with those thoughts first thing in the morning because our cortisol is really high about, oh, well, I better get on it. And then, of course, we've got this natural dialogue that's given to us by someone else. It's not self-created about, well, we've got to increase our safety or I've got self-doubt. Those are the things that we can neutralize and then pair with an amazing business strategy. And once that happens, you see people take off. Things get really simple. Actions start to increase and business success follows. If we don't get those two things in alignment, we're dead in the water.
Nice. And why do you actually, before you get to that question, I want to preface with, can you fill me in a little bit on your credentials? Like the experience you've had over the past however many years, what was it that you were doing? What did you go through? And what kind of experience did you gain in order to garner the ability to be able to have an offer as good as what you're doing right now?
Sure.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I could probably tell a story to illustrate that. Growing up where I did, there were several Winter Olympians from where I was. One of them was Lyle Nelson. And if he gets to hear this, and he'll be tickled pink. He still lives in McCall. Multi-time Olympian, carried the U.S. flag for the Winter Olympic team in Calgary, I believe. And he was a biathlete. And so he's on skis and he's shooting a rifle. And he created a course called Life 101 that helped me understand how powerful the human brain was. And I met him kind of halfway through my career working in the ski industry and realized, wow, this is really where it's at. Because how he became an Olympian was that he met other world-class athletes that were really working on their mind first or in full pairing with their body. And so through experience and conversation with him, both on just cultivating a positive mindset, as well as integrating some tools to help people actually do that genuinely. Like we can all cover it over, especially guys. We can gloss it over, right? But truly creating deep personal confidence is what allowed him to stay in that game for so many years and go to multiple Olympics. Getting certifications in the ski industry, going to, yes, I had years where I read 100 books a year, all that kind of stuff. Eventually, it came down to
Interesting. So my mind goes to this, and I'm just trying to figure out how to word this. So when I hear this story, whenever I think about offers in the online course space in general, everything's got to be quantified, right? So have you read $100 Million Offers?
Yes, I have. Great book.
Okay, so
yep.
Did I recommend that, or was it someone else?
You recommended it.
And you read it.
And we've got multiple connections with Alex Hormozy through a couple people here in Boise.
I'm sure, yeah.
He's an amazing author.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Dude, I mean, he's like my street prophet. Marlon loves him too.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the book, he talks about the value equation, right? Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in the value equation, like we got to figure out how do we quantify the offer that we're selling? What's it worth to people? And when you think about things that are revolved around money, for example, let's say you're selling a course teaching people how to build courses, right? Okay, the first question is, from a potential prospect, what gives you the credentials to be able to charge a course? Why should I listen to you? How do I know you know what you're talking about when you're educating people on what you're selling? And at the end of the day, you quantify it by how much money have they made with courses, right? Or somebody's going to teach you how to be a successful entrepreneur and how to build a profitable gym. Okay, have you built a profitable gym? And then what's profitable, right? So you can pretty much you can state your credentials by saying like I've made this much doing this, which is more than 99% of people. So I obviously know what I'm doing. So my question for you is how do you quantify what it is you give people? Like what is the value tied to that? It seems like it could be pretty subjective. Or I assume it's also pretty made to order, isn't it, per person that comes on? Or how does that work?
It is certainly made to order. However, I think that whether you're working with yourself or you're working with a team, I think working with teams is an easy place to start. When we quantify the value of a solid team member, say for instance, I'll do that. I'll be contracted to work with like a middle manager who's learning how to lead. What is the value of that manager? Well, we already know that like in food service industry, the loss of one team member out of a restaurant is an average of $3,000 to $4,000 loss immediately. When we're talking about, okay, lost productivity, distraction on the team, the cost and time of finding and retraining someone. So if within the food service industry, just to lose a dishwasher, which is an important job on that team, okay, how much money can we save by increasing our team retention or increasing our team culture? Now, when we apply that to what a business owner is, right? And we're talking about you are your business. You're the CEO and the employee of it, right? What is the potential of entrepreneurship? Well, we actually know that if you're well aligned, you can get over six figures. I mean, I work with real estate agents and they work 2-3 hours a day and make over $100,000. But they only do that when they're doing specific activities. And it's normally like 1 hour a day. But it's that one thought that's stopping them from doing that 1 hour activity a day, right? So every time I sit down with someone, we quantify that hour as $5,000 to $10,000 of value. And we can quantify that over the course of the coaching and over their business. And we've always been able to meet that. That's the value of a coach, whether it's me or someone else. If they're qualified, that's what you're making thousands in that hour, even though it might be costing you hundreds.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's really good too, right? Because when I don't know much about your space, this is a good opportunity for me to learn as much as I can about it, right? So a lot of this is going to be me asking you questions because I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm trying to think like bridging that gap, right? So when I first think about leadership coaches, how would you categorize yourself?
Mindset and leadership.
Mindset and
primarily.
leadership.
Yep.
Okay. And do you work primarily with solo entrepreneurs, big corporations? Who's your audience? Like more B2B?
Sure. It's 80-20. It's about 80% independent entrepreneurs or salespeople, and then 20% teams.
Okay. And right now you're working on referrals primarily for everything, right?
Yeah, it's
Nice.
it's all referral business.
Dude, that's how it goes, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and when you're doing really well right now, it sounds like, right? You're getting a lot of business coming in. When you're able to do that off referrals, that's pretty good proof of concept, right? Tells you you're doing something right. So yeah, bridging that gap, I think, of taking people from like opportunity cost, right? It's not so much entirely by paying and contracting me to come in and give you mindset and leadership training that I'm going to get you to make more. Ultimately, you're going to be making more money. But people don't think about, okay, where are you spending your time? Where's your time allocation? How are you managing your time? Because guess what? You could be spending 20, 30, 40% of your time on low value activities that's actually costing you money. Instead of figuring out how do we properly allocate your time. I'm sure my mind's going 1,000 miles an hour right now. I'm sure you probably teach on so many different things. Mindset and leadership seems like such a broad, like coaching offer. Do you have like a timeline of like phases and specific topics you cover with people? How streamlined or templated is it per person, or is your process entirely different with each person that you work with?
Well, I would say there's definitely like some overlap here. So you're challenging me at this point, right? There really is to create maximum output. Yes, we do customize for every individual because they're going to bring different elements to it.
You have to an extent, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely, right? And so it is an inside then out process. So I'll outline like some phases so that whoever's listening or watching right now can really think about their business and what is creating or not creating results.
I think this could be a really good whisper for like little, hey, free value. Think about this stuff, right? Implement it to your life. Go ahead. This is good. I'm excited. Go
yes, absolutely. So, and this is where I get to geek out as well.
I get this for free?
You absolutely do.
Let's go.
Hey.
Let's go. And coffee? Okay, go ahead.
You got it. So when we talk about mindset, we're really only talking about two things. We're talking about the models that we carry about ourselves and the model that we carry about the world.
Okay.
And if we have a good model of ourselves and we have a good model of other people, we're pretty confident. We go out there and we will take the action regardless of our level of understanding. We are trusting that our actions will get results or that we will learn from our results. So if you're thinking about, okay, how does this apply to my business? Well, scale of 1 to 10, what do you think of yourself? And scale of 1 to 10, what do you think of other people?
In what regards, what respect?
Well, when people look in the mirror every day, right, they're going to have personal judgments. If I have zero personal judgment, I like where I brought myself, I recognize my own value, I'm able to communicate it, and I'm excited to share it, awesome. That's probably close to a level 10 in this business, right? In any kind of community, any industry. Mm-hmm. If I look at other people and I see the best in people and I trust that their reaction to me when I communicate to them is going to be generally positive, I'm also going to engage more often with them. And we only have a few jobs, right? Our job is really to tell people what we want and tell people who we want to be with. That's it. Here's what I'd like and here's who I need. And so if we don't have a good opinion of ourselves or we don't know our value, we can't actually communicate that. And if we don't understand or value other people, we won't communicate that. That's like the huge epidemic right now, is that, still seeing ramifications of COVID and then being antisocial from, having screens right in our face. Those are things that break down our potential. But then when we remove those things and we start creating different dialogues and actually go through processes to eliminate all of the negative emotion, we can move forward. So that's step number 1. We have to get rid of those sabotaging thoughts, right? So model of myself, model of you, other people.
Okay.
The second one is strategy. And a lot of people recognize, I need a strategy. But what they normally do, and there's lots of great models out there, but they don't know where to apply their value. So yes, we absolutely talk about strategy from the perspective of just what you do, which is, okay, what is your core offering? And if we can narrow that down to a single target message or target channel message, then that's a great place to start. I've been successful at that. You've been successful at that. And we have to start simple. And then finally, it's, okay, how do I actually scale this business? A great example. The other day I was working with someone and he had 4 or 5 different channels he was working on. He's actually spending up to $5,000 in print material per month for a business that was bringing in somewhere around 1.5 million, something like that. I said, okay, well, let's break these different channels apart. Yes, I get my business through referrals. We actually looked at his referral channel and determined that each one of his referral partners was anywhere from $50,000 to $250,000 in referred business a year. Whereas his print marketing, right, was much less. And if we went the digital course, which we actually should bring you in on that, is a whole nother opportunity, right? So he says, all right, what is it that I am doing that I could stop doing? And I think for a lot of people, it's not about addition, it's about subtraction. It's like doing less. For a lot of people, it's about subtraction, not addition.
That's a valid point too. So many of us are so caught up in busy work, right? Like, I work so hard. What are you working hard on? Right? Like, you working smart? Do you understand where you're? Like, I think it's so important to understand what's your time worth. Like, do the math on what is every hour of my time worth, and then if somebody else can do something for cheaper, pay them to do it. Right? Reallocate your time to high value activities, high level activities, right? And that's a good thing. So you guys look into a lot of different things. Right there, you said you were looking into their marketing channels of like, okay, so you're allocating what X dollars, X amount of time to referrals, which are bringing in a bulk of your revenue versus $5,000 a month on print marketing, which is bringing back this amount. And correct me if I'm wrong, what you're saying is we get rid of that $5,000 a month expense and reallocate it to working more on referrals. What was your recommendation there?
Absolutely. Well, his cost of acquisition through the print marketing was 60 to 65%, just through a quick calculation. He was not like, that's not sustainable, right?
Yeah, no.
And so that wasn't even really covering, it was just keeping his crews busy. You know, he's in a service industry. So with that particular case, it's yes, how can I reallocate that money to get awareness with more of my direct consumers? And I think the challenge is, like, it's difficult to find where people congregate now because everybody's so spread out.
Yeah.
And so that's his next challenge. All right. So we have that conversation. It's clear that he has to find gatekeepers or groups of individuals that are exposed to his type of clients. So referrals is it for now. But if I talk to, like, what is your time worth? I think most people would be shocked. I work with a lot of real estate agents. A brand new real estate agent, if they picked up the phone, makes over $250 an hour. I have one client, for every cold call or contact he made in the month of April, made $500 in revenue that turned into contracted revenue. So we underestimate how valuable our time is in certain activities all the time.
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to bounce around too much, but when I have ideas in my head, I want to ask it. So when you're helping people out, you're coaching people, what percentage of your focus is dedicated towards, say, personal growth and development with the individual, the entrepreneur, versus logistics of the business operations, marketing, personnel, stuff like that? Does that make sense?
Yes. You know, I think in the beginning it's really business heavy because that's the lens that they're viewing, right?
I think that's more of an immediate return as opposed to self-growth development is more long-term.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we all face this, which is once I discover what to do, my only limitation is now me.
Yeah.
And so what I have to focus on is life. It is my fitness. It is my sleep. It is my nutrition. It is my relationships. It is my environment. And those are the things that we can actually control. You know, a lot of coaches, and rightfully so, are going to say, well, it's your internal programs then it's your thoughts, then it's your emotions, then it's your actions. But they stop right there. And so a really good guiding professional, whether it's me or you, is going to recognize that relationships, the condition of your body, and your environment are actually the things that are kicking off different things in your mind, in your genes, whatever it might be, to get a particular result. So if your mind isn't working well, look at your relationships. If you can't control your relationships, go on a walk, go to the gym, something like that. If you can't do that, change your environment. That's why people go on vacation. It's not for necessarily, well, it might be for the fun, but they get a dopamine hit and a change in thought because they change their environment. It just provides different cues.
Yeah. How many people would you say, generally speaking, know what to do, they're just too afraid to do it, or they're too lazy to do it, whatever the reason is, but they know what to do, they just don't do it, versus people that genuinely are lost and don't know what direction to take? Because I feel like a lot of people I talk to, in the back of their head, they're like, yeah, I know, like, I should be doing that, I should do this, I know what to do, I just don't do it. Is it just me, or are there a lot of people like that?
I think it is not you. It's upwards of 90%. My initial gut reaction was 99% of people know exactly what they need to do in order to be successful. They just aren't willing or able to take the action.
Willing or able to take the action. What do you see most of it being in terms of reason why people don't take the action?
Actually, one of my favorite thoughts lately is through Valuetainment, Patrick Bet-David.
Love that dude.
Yeah. It's super powerful. He says that it's all about sequencing, right? So while I know what I need to do, a lot of people are well-intentioned. They'll just say, well, I need to get a business card first. I need to work on a logo. Then I need to have everything perfect before I go out and get a client. No, you don't. You need proof of concept.
Yep.
You need your first high-paying client as fast as possible, not a funnel that pays you $7 at the beginning of it. Let's go get your high-paying clients that are going to feed your business, and then off of those observations, let's reverse engineer the funnel to get people there.
Bro, so many people I talk to, I don't know where to begin. I don't know how to start. I want to do this, but I don't know how to do it. It's like, go do it. Go sell it. Go find someone. What's the problem you solve? Hormozy made a reel one time, and I always think about it because it's so funny. Because it blew up, but it's the funniest thing he said. He was like, it's so easy to make $1 million. You find a problem in the marketplace, a problem that people have. You figure out the value of that problem. You then go solve that problem and take their money.
Yeah.
like theoretically, hypothetically, yes, it's that easy. In execution, it's a lot more difficult. But what I'm getting at is like, so many people make the excuse of, well, I can't go do that yet because I got to do this first, or I got to do this first. Exactly what you said, right? And a couple of my close friends, actually, I'm like, dude, you can go out, find someone and solve the problem right now, or at least attempt to, get your proof of concept and see if it's even going to work. Because so many people are like, I want to build a course. This is the comment. This is what I get most of the time. I want to build a course, but I got to figure out how to market first. I got to figure out how to build a funnel. I got to figure out copywriting. I got to figure out like how to run ads. I got to figure out how to make good content. I got to figure out how to do all these different things. And it's like, okay, what is it you're going to sell in the course? What are you going to coach people on? Well, I want to coach people on leadership. Okay, don't do any of that. Go network. Find someone locally that has the problem mentally that you can diagnose, that you can solve, that you can fill in the gap with. Tell them you'll do it for free if you have to, right? Do it for free for a bit. And then you get the proof of concept from them afterwards and that testimonial of, dude, you solved this problem for me and now I'm here. I'm making an additional $10,000 a month because of you, right? Because of all the actions that I took with you. Okay, boom. You know it works. Now you know that what you offer works and people will value it at X. Now you can start to build it out, but go put in the footwork. Like, yeah, all the time. So my question for you is, why do so many people use that excuse of, I need to do this first, I need to do this first, I need to do this first? Do they actually believe that? Or do you think they're making the excuse of that? What do you think it is? And I know, obviously, generally speaking, it's different with everyone, but what do you think it would be? Why do people do that?
Yeah, I think it circles back to like that model of themselves. Right. And what a good, we've all had like really great people in our lives. There's a concept that I learned through working through real estate that, you know, people grow into the conversation that you create around them. Well, if I'm not creating conversations around my clients of like, no, you should just go do this directly. Would you rather make, $7 at X number per month, or would you like to go make $7,000 out of solving a really big problem? What kind of impact do you want, right? Well, I'd love to do that, but, right? And those are like the key moments in there where like they know what they're intellectually supposed to do. It's their subconscious that has those but statements attached. But I'm young, but I'm unexperienced, but I've never been in a professional setting, but I've never run my own business, but I've never built a course.
So limiting beliefs.
Absolutely. Right. And those are not their own. Their brain's just trying to keep them safe. But in reality, it's keeping them extremely unsafe because they're not taking the jump right now to actually just go talk to someone. It's kind of like, if you talk to guys and they need to, one of the most emotional things that any human can be, and it's like not very common anymore, is like a guy approaches a girl, right? Heart pounding out of his chest, sweating, not knowing what to say, obsessing over it. But once you're in that conversation, you find, oh, this is a lot easier than it was. That feeling that someone feels when they're meeting somebody new is actually very ancient, and it is the feeling of death, right? It's the risk of death, because if you talk to the wrong person, you were outcast, shunned, or stoned, right?
Yeah.
So we feel those ancient feelings in modern times, but we don't recognize them and put them in their place. So with that, to answer your question, I think it's both. I think it is limiting beliefs in their programming, which we know how to change now. And it's just lies that they're telling themselves, right? They're deluding themselves on, oh, I need to look like this. Getting very wordy about this, but in reality, when we see other people marketing, when we see their visibility, we often attribute their success to that visibility, when in reality it was 2 years building up to that point of other activities that we didn't see.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. What is the 2 seconds, sorry. What is the best way for people to overcome their limiting beliefs?
Discover their value and own it. It's one thing. It's, what is my value and how do I communicate it? That's it. Mm-hmm. And people are afraid to commit to what that is. But if we actually just sat down with a notebook, learned how to articulate that, and then said, hey, I think this is my value. What do you think? To someone that we trust.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I confirm that. Awesome. Go say that to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Then you've got the start of a business.
100%. I like it. This is my dad. We're doing a podcast right now. Feel free to listen. If you want, you can hang out by my desk over there. He owns the building.
Howdy.
Right here. Well, dude, it's super cramped in here. I know. There's like nowhere you can walk.
They want to walk in front of cameras.
Oh, that too. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just hangout session. It's okay. I've got probably like not. I didn't think about this. Yeah, you wanna?
Get over
You can hang out here for a sec. Feel free to hang out for a second if you'd like. We've got another 30 minutes of this left. Okay, so we're talking about limiting beliefs. What was the last thing you said?
Well, they figure out what your value is, figure out how to say it, and go say it to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes with. What was it that Hormozy said?
Which one?
He in regards to he said about shouting affirmations in the mirror. You don't become confident by shouting affirmations in the mirror, but rather by having a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are.
Yeah, and I think if I could expand on that, like I remember hearing that and processing it and going, oh, okay, that's right from a lot of different perspectives. And for someone just starting out in business, they need to recognize that it doesn't have to be huge pieces of proof, right? It doesn't have to be the six-figure client. It can be as simple as I set promises for myself and then I keep those promises, right? So I got up at a specific time and I did it for a year. I drank the water. I went to the gym. I went after that client. It is the accumulation of keeping all of those promises that creates somebody that you like in the mirror.
Yeah, for sure. That was good. So backtrack a little bit. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why do you do this? Remember when I asked you that? I think I asked you that when we had our first meeting. Yeah. I was like, okay, bro, so why are you doing this? And you gave me a pretty good response. So why do you do it?
And that continues to evolve all the time, right?
I think it always will.
I think it always will. I know that my purpose is to inspire and empower people to inspire and empower people. But ultimately, I went through a lot of suffering growing up, not being recognized, not knowing how to communicate my value. And ultimately, we want to help other people fix the problem that you've worked to solve for yourself, right?
Oh, yeah. That's a valid point. Say that again too.
You ultimately, as an entrepreneur, often are trying to fix the problem that you had to solve for yourself, or that you might even be solving for yourself right now because you're empathizing with someone. The top entrepreneurs are doing what they do, and they would probably do it for zero pay, right? I would do what I do regardless of whether I have money in the bank or not. I know that's an interesting concept, but that's what makes me so hungry to do this work. Right.
Yeah. I was just talking with somebody about this earlier today, though. I met with this guy. He's got a podcast studio here locally. Super cool dude. Roberto's his name. We were talking about building businesses, right? And he said, I tried everything. I tried drop shipping. I tried building a Shopify store. I tried e-com. I tried like all these different things that these gurus tell you to do that you can make a lot of money on. And I very quickly realized that A, it was all just shiny object syndrome. And B, the reason I did all those things was to make money. And then he said, I always come back to what I love, which is the creative realm of creating content, right? And I was like, dude, I'm a firm believer that you can make a ton of money doing anything if you're passionate enough about it. You got to pair unrelenting passion with consistency. I think you can make a lot of money doing anything, right? Like people in my space, like videographers, most of them, you think about videographers, they don't make a lot of money. It's just the truth, right? It's a constant feast and famine cycle. If you're a videographer, you can bet you're probably not making more than 5 to 10K a month. But guess what? If you don't really care to make a lot of money, you just want to do it because you love it, great. Then that's a win in your book, right? But you can figure out how to make a lot of money doing it if you're passionate enough about it and you're smart enough to learn about the business side of it too and not just the creative. So I want to go back to asking you another question on that. But there's I've met a lot, and they're everywhere. You probably know. There's a lot of leadership coaches and consultants out there, right? Mm-hmm. Mindset coaches. What makes you different?
So great question. I actually got this question from somebody yesterday who was considering hiring me.
I think these are good questions to ask.
These are amazing questions. And I think if you're like looking to get into the coaching space, you need to consider this. We need to remember that, okay, leadership, coaching, videography, all of these things that we espouse that we do are actually skills. And the skills operate on a scale, right? So I can say, I'm a baseball player. Awesome. That means one end of the spectrum is I'm a pro baseball player, and on the other end of the spectrum is I play t-ball. Okay. Now, I'm with respect to everybody that's on that journey. As long as you're moving forward, you're going to be able to move your business forward, right? But what I would say makes the experience that I provide and some of the coaches in my circle, the experiences that they provide, is that we can see what's going on below the surface. You know, we live in a state where there's a lot of white water, right? Well, you see the white water on the top, but it's actually understanding the currents underneath that allow you to keep that, to make that experience great. When you're working with a coach, if they're asking you about surface level type stuff and it's only about the strategy and it's only about the goal and it's only about accountability, we're actually just touching the surface of what someone's true potential is. Because we find our true potential through attaching to future goals. And you can imagine like climbing a mountain. Okay, I've got an anchor point up there. I'm going to pull myself up. But what if I'm dragging a duffel bag full of rocks? Can I cut that loose? Awesome. So for me, it's the coaches that, number one, are going to see that. Number two, they're going to call you out on it. So you've got to have a huge degree of trust with someone. One of my favorite clients to this day, and I know this story will be empowering. And if there's coaches or course creators out there, this will kick it into gear for them. So she this client, she was new. She called me one day about 2 years ago. And up to that point, she'd been really bubbly. And you could just tell that her energy was off. And I said, okay, full stop, what's going on? And her eyes welled up and she says, well, I've been diagnosed with cancer. And I said, okay. Now, most coaches would say, okay, let's fix that, right? Or let's move into that emotionally. The question that I asked at the time was, do you need me to be your friend or do you need me to be your coach? And she thought about it for a second. And she said, well, I need you to be my coach. And I said, then I'm not going to feel sorry for you, because you can choose to be the victim or you can choose to be the victor against this thing that's trying to control your life. What do you want to do? And that was where the tide turned for her in that experience about, well, shoot, my emotions towards what I'm doing are actually being produced by my environment, my relationships. But a good coach will like hold that space really hard, even if it means alienating the client.
I like that. I think aside from that too, when it comes to credentials, you have how many people that you've worked with and how many successful results of quantifiable improvements. What would you say are some of your like top 2 or 3 results that you've gotten with people that you've coached or you've worked with?
Sure. Still to this day, we're still seeing a doubling of income with our clients that are fully engaged annually.
Doubling of income annually. And have you talked to them with how much they would consider they'd attribute that doubling of their income to your coaching?
Yeah.
Is there any? What would they say to that?
60 to 80%, right? Because it is truly about the first thoughts that they have when they wake up in the morning and the first thoughts that they have when they meet a new client. Because, there's a great book, right? There's great books out there. Atomic Habits is one of them, and it's all about the small things that you do repetitively. But if you listen to one of my favorite inspirational videos from Matthew McConaughey, and he's doing some life coaching events now, which is really cool.
Oh, I love that guy.
But he says life boils down to just I'm paraphrasing here. Life boils down to just a few key moments. And the reality is that emotions are so high during those key moments that you aren't actually controlling your actions. You're running on full programming. So we have to do the work, the deep work, to respond to those really key moments in life as we want to, not as we think not as we want to, but not as we, what am I trying to say here? As we truly want to. We need to be able to respond to those moments in life as we truly want to, but it requires preparation. It's not just repetition. It's actually how we program ourselves.
This is stuff that gets you thinking. So when you're working with people, how many clients you typically work with at a time?
Typically about 24 at a time, although I've carried up to 80 clients at a time.
Wow.
So
how do you manage that? Because do you have people working with you? It sounds like you're the asset here. You're the one that's coaching these people. So it's got to be you with all of them one-on-one, right?
Yes.
And how do you manage all that? Is it a lot, or is it like 1 hour bi-weekly coaching sessions? Like how do you operate on managing all those people?
Sure. I think that at first you've got to have a really great control of your time and focus, right? And you got to be able to show up super energetically. My day actually starts the evening before. Right, so I have a really great nightly routine that gets me the sleep and the rest that I need in order to decompress, disconnect from everybody that I've been with during the day, and then be able to hit the ground running first thing in the morning. I'll typically start coaching somewhere around 6:30, 7 in the morning. And with my programs, everything includes like unlimited text, and a lot of them have daily accountability. So I'll have their
unlimited
goals.
Text?
Yep.
Do you get blown up?
No, because you might think, right?
Yeah.
But if we do our job of eliminating all those mental obstacles and then knowing exactly what the next step is, action is required, not conversation.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
I've never had anybody consume my time unless they're just totally roadblocked with something. And at that point, it behooves me to help them with that, right?
For sure.
So we do, by a couple times a month or weekly sessions. and then unlimited text, and then sometimes daily accountability. And that's like 3 to 7 things that we're trying to hit. Super simple things. Like, did I get up at the right time? And these are CEOs, right? They're working on the same thing that the rest of us are. It's like, did my wife feel loved and respected today? Did I drink water? Did I get my steps in? Those are like the personal things, right? And then, did I show up as the best version of myself at work in the first 90 minutes today? Or they have to be yes or no questions, but we're definitely tracking those on a daily basis, right? So it's checking in with clients. And then from that point, it's absolute adherence to my schedule, right? So when you do have a large number of clients, there's a variety of different things you can do. You can batch them together in groups, but ultimately it's the same thing. You're going to fill your schedule until you cannot run it anymore, and then you're going to start so that your inputs to the business are maxed out, and then your 80% starts to go towards leverage.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You worked with quite a few people, and I'm sure you've come across many different obstacles, many different problems to solve. What would you say are probably the top few, or the top one, if it's really common, problem / obstacle / limiting belief that most people you work with have that you have to overcome with them? Or is it all different across the board?
Well, I think that we can probably like point to some standard things around, do I think I'm enough? Right. And those are all things that we're naturally going to have if we're attempting goals that we've never accomplished. But the main thing that I see with everyone, and like news is really responsible for this. You and I, we probably like do a good job of filtering the content that makes it into our brain. And the reason why that's important is that I can have 2 points of focus. I can either focus on outside factors that I cannot control, or I can focus on inside factors that I can control. And those are 2 distinct groups. So the first thing that I look at is, are you focused on things you can control? And do we just need to zero in on which thing is going to get you there? Or are you obsessed or worried by what's happening in the world? And I think people feed into that too much. Yes, there's calculations that need to be made depending upon what market, sector, and industry you're in. But overall, the fastest growth companies don't look at other companies. They actually look at their client and how they can just provide maximum value at an increased rate. Yeah,
for sure. Where do you see this thing going? Where do you see yourself in? How far ahead do you plan? How far ahead do you look? Do you look 5 years in the future? Or are you like a 3-month guy or a 1-year guy? Or do you look at all of it? Like, do you have a 5-year plan?
I'm 10-year guy.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So 10 years, where are you going to be?
10 years, I'm going to have a team of individuals that can do what I do. Because like I said in the beginning of it, coaching is a skill. Right? A lot of people I'll work with, they're like, wow, this is the best conversation I've ever had. And I might have a coaching trainee sit in with me who's trying to build their own business. And we do that pretty often. And they go, wow, that looked like magic. But it's kind of like anything, the first time you go skiing, or the first time you drive a car, or the first time you see a new invention, right? There's a lot of wonderment around it, but in reality, there's a process behind it. So I want to teach people what I do so that we can benefit more people. And ultimately, we're narrowing down on those skill sets. And one of the problems in my business, honestly, is that clients get to results so fast now that I think the next step is actually providing more of that community experience, more of that connected experience that's going to give them energy from a different perspective. Because where it might have taken 8 months, 4 months to get like really great traction in their business, now it's like 6 weeks. I've got the mindset, I've got the strategy, I'm moving forward super fast. Now what? And so that's where I think the next step is for me, is in growing courses, growing communities, doing things that a larger number of people can engage with.
Do you see a way, because I'm trying to think, now we're going to talk about your business a little bit. Do you see a way that you can templatize your process into different like sectors or phases that could be pre-recorded and applicable to everyone that you could do on a course, and then people can buy in and they get access to an entire course, which is basically the foundation of like one section talking about paradigm, one section talking about business operations, blah, 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 stuff like that. And then you got another section divvied out to one-on-one coaching sessions for the things that need to be made to order. Because that's another way to automate and increase the volume you can take in, right? Because there's only one of you right now until you got to go hire more people. And even then, you can only have so many people that can take on so many clients. But if you have a course, that's infinite. If you have a certain offering you can do, there's no limit to how many people can buy into that. So have you thought about, it is a different model than what you're doing right now. And obviously this would be long-term. Like keep focusing on what you're doing now. It's working well, scale that. But long-term, have you given that any thought, or is there any way you think you could maybe turn that into something down the road?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a model within the industry that is this combination of tangible physical experiences combined with technology.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, everybody has a phone. Most people have a laptop. Problem is that we're so distracted on those devices that we rarely use them to be absolutely productive. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, when I put that phone down, people are like super uncomfortable to even just spend a half an hour on their own in a quiet room. And that's a huge problem. You want to like know how successful you're going to be in business. Just put everything down, go sit in a room for half an hour and do nothing. Notice what you feel. Notice what thoughts come up. How comfortable are you? Are you sad? What's coming into this space? And if you're able to sit there and have that patience, then you are able to make the decisions that are going to lead to success in your business.
Interesting. That's a clip right there. That's a good one.
Perfect.
If you're able to sit in a room for 30 minutes, an hour, and be comfortable. Is that what you said?
Yeah, because what are you doing? You are the master of your own mind and body, and not many of us are anymore.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's true. Think about like how often, if somebody sits down, or they're not working, they're not doing anything, how often does somebody just sit down and just kind of, or go outside and just be present and just look around versus whip out their phone? Everybody. It's like, it's a normal, right? I did that the other day, actually. I went outside. I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a break. Went outside, grounded myself. I love grounding too. Take your shoes off, go out in the grass, just stand there or just sit there and purposefully not do anything. But I like that though. That'll give you a good, being able to do that comfortably is a good indicator of how far you can go in business.
Right. Because business isn't about figuring out what to do. It's figuring out what not to do. Remember, it's about subtraction. It's like, how am I not going to spend my time to be successful this week? Mm-hmm. You can make a longer list of those things than the actual things it takes to be successful. I think relationships, I think business, I think fitness are all much more simple than we give them credit for. And if we actually just treated it like that, then we would be successful. So from that future model perspective, I think it's the integration of like wise use of technology and wise use of personal exercise and activity. Say, for instance, like journaling combined with a reminder on an app on a phone. I think that's an excellent way to get people into the activities that they need to perform and complete in order to be successful. In the beginning of this conversation, we said, do you know your value and do you know how to express it? Stop the podcast right now. Write down what that is in one sentence. If you know what that is, you're at a significant advantage compared to the person who cannot. If you can't do that, full stop. Because what that does, right, is not only can I communicate it well, but if I can communicate it clearly, then maybe you can communicate it clearly. And that's where we create movements out of business. We have to create messages that other people want to share and can share. And most businesses are just too complicated with their offerings and their value in order for that to be the case. It's so stupid simple.
1 second, stand by. That's really good. Noah! Tell him to come in here. Hang out for a second. Just tell him we're almost done. Hey, bro. You want to come in? We're doing a podcast right now. We're filming. No, you're good. You want to hang out?
Yeah.
Come on in.
Here, you can come in. It's super chill, bro. Like, people watching, they're just going to see this is our break. So take a drink of coffee, be on your phone, whatever. Yeah. Okay, cool. So, transition to one more topic, and then we'll close out. I think this is really a conversation. We've been talking for 50 minutes now, almost an hour actually. And I'll let you bounce. But okay, talking about your business, I want to ask one question. We'll go into that a little bit. What problem are you facing right now? What's your biggest problem in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. Up to this point, it's been the same thing. Clarifying what my actual offering is.
Sounds like you've come a long way though since last time we talked.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
I think that with hyper talented individuals, and I don't claim to be the most talented individual, but because of my diverse past, I can do about 20 different things in a business. Right? Somebody said, "Hey, operate a camera." Yeah, I can do that. That's not my specialty.
Yeah.
And so my problem has been the same thing. Stopping certain activities, taking responsibility off of myself for certain things, hiring other individuals to actually move my business forward. Mm-hmm. And then the next step for me, I think, is you really got to grow a pair if you are going to have a very tight marketing message, right? I don't mean to be offensive with that, but we have to.
This is not a PC podcast.
All right,
don't worry.
Perfect. We got to find the courage to pick a point and pull the trigger, right? And so for me, it's really about becoming the best mindset professional that I can possibly be. And I want to be at the top of that conversation from the perspective of understanding it. They're understanding it and then fixing it. There's over 100,000 business books published every single year. Wow. If we had solved the problem of mindset, there wouldn't be an industry for that. If we had solved the problem of emotions as it relates to actions, we wouldn't need so much therapy. Solving this for people and actually creating something that's permanent has been the goal. And having reached that with the majority of my clients, it's really fun to see. And that's the next step for me, is just going all in on that message and that topic.
Nice. Beautiful, man. Hey, where can people find out about you? Where can they reach you? You got a website, Instagram, socials?
Absolutely. So we've been talking about what it takes on the inside to produce something on the outside. They can find me at truestrengthproject.com or sethjacobsen.com. You can find me at Seth Jacobsen on social media, and I'm always up for really good conversations. I'll help anybody who's growth-minded.
Dude, I love it. Beautiful podcast. Thanks, man. Tons of nuggets in here, guys. Obviously, if you're watching these highlights, this part will probably be in the podcast, won't be a highlight, but you guys watching this highlights, you'll be able to see all of our collaborated posts. Go ahead and follow Seth. Seth, thanks again for coming out, brother. Thank you for the coffee. Thanks for the conversation. It's been great.
Always.
I wish you the best, man. Catch up again. Different time, all right?
Thanks, Ridge.
Sweet. Okay.